I used to sleep like a stone, hard, cold, undisturbed, until one night, I closed my eyes and saw something looking back at me, something that knew my name, my memories, my guilt, and the exact shape of every thought I tried to bury deep beneath my waking life. It didn't blink. It didn't smile. It just waited. Every night since, it's been getting closer, and now I'm scared to fall asleep, not because of what it might do, but because of what I've started to remember when it comes. I think it started on a Tuesday, though I've been losing track of days lately, and I only remember it was Tuesday because I had missed my therapy session for the third week in a row and told myself I'd reschedule, knowing full well I wouldn't, just like I knew I wouldn't return the dozen unopened voicemails from my mother or reply to the increasingly polite emails from work asking if I was okay, which I most definitely wasn't, but had long stopped trying to explain. The room I sleep in isn't messy, exactly. It's still, like everything in it has given up pretending to be alive. The walls a chalky gray from when I tried to repaint them last winter but couldn't bring myself to finish the second coat, the mattress sunken in the middle like a shallow grave, the curtains drawn all day because the light makes my skin crawl, and even the air feels like it's been held in the lungs of something long dead, waiting to exhale. That night, I didn't dream, not at first. Instead, there was this moment, this sharp moment between falling asleep and actually being asleep, where it felt like something shifted in my brain, like one hemisphere slipped just a few degrees out of sync with the other, and in that exact moment, I saw it. It wasn't a vision, not really. It wasn't like dreaming, or hallucinating, or even remembering. It was closer. Like someone had pressed a thumb against the soft meat of my thoughts and dragged down slow, letting me feel each ridge of their fingerprint as they pulled something open in me I'd kept welded shut. I was lying in bed, and suddenly I was elsewhere, but not gone. You know how in dreams, nothing makes sense. This made sense, too much sense, like waking into a reality I had forgotten was the real one. And there, standing just across from me, in that nowhere space that exists behind your closed eyes, was a figure, or the suggestion of one, not dark, but colorless, like something bleached out of existence, like the silhouette left behind when you stare at a light too long and then close your eyes. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It didn't reach out or shift or tilt its head. It just looked at me. And here's the thing. I couldn't tell if its eyes were open or closed, only that I felt watched, in the deep, horrible way that makes your stomach drop and your body freeze because something is witnessing you, not just your shape, but your soul, like it knows what you've done when you were alone and what you really meant when you said, "I'm fine." I woke up sweating, mouth dry, skin burning hot like I'd been dipped in fever, and I sat up too fast, heart pounding so hard I couldn't tell if it was fear or shame or some rotten cocktail of both. I told myself it was a stress dream. But something inside me, something old, buried, clawing up through the floorboards of my subconscious, knew better. Because it didn't disappear when I opened my eyes. It just blinked. I didn't sleep the next night, or maybe I did and just refused to call it that, because whatever state I reached with the lights off and the blinds drawn felt more like drowning than resting, more like being held under by the soft hands of something that didn't need to breathe, something patient, something that could wait until I stopped kicking, and I think that's what's scaring me the most, how easy it's getting to stop kicking. I stayed in bed for hours with the blanket pulled up to my chest like a child warding off monsters, though I knew even then that whatever I'd seen wasn't afraid of cotton and stitching, and at some point, around 4 in the morning, I got up to piss, and that's when I saw something that made my spine lock in a way that felt permanent, like I'd stepped into a new kind of gravity. The bathroom mirror had always been warped, a cheap thing bolted to the wall by a landlord who didn't care whether I saw myself clearly, but that night, when I flipped on the light and stared into it, I saw something wrong with my reflection, not just tired eyes and the shallow skin under them, but a delay, a twitch, a slight mismatch between me and what was supposed to be me. I turned my head to the left and it followed, slower than it should have. I blinked, and for half a second, I swear to whatever thing might be listening, the reflection didn't. I leaned closer, slow, my breath fogging up the glass, my fingers gripping the sink so hard my knuckles went white, and I stared into the eyes staring back at me, not looking outward but inward, like they weren't reflecting light but recording it, holding it behind the pupils like the lens of an old camera, waiting to show it back to me later, when I was too weak to look away. And the worst part wasn't the delay or the way my lips seemed to quiver when I wasn't moving, or even the fact that the light behind me in the hallway looked darker in the reflection than it did in the room. It was that there was something behind me in the mirror, just for a second, standing in the doorway like a tall shadow slumped in thought, like it had been caught mid-step and was deciding whether or not to finish. I spun around, heart in my throat, mouth open but too dry to scream, and of course there was nothing there, just the hallway, the dark hallway that never felt quite dark enough anymore, that smelled too much like wet soil and rust and something else I couldn't name but remembered from somewhere I didn't want to revisit. I didn't sleep after that. Not even the drowning kind. Instead, I sat in the living room with all the lights on, every bulb buzzing like a nervous tick, drinking cold coffee I didn't remember making and watching the shadows cast by the furniture grow longer and longer until I realized the sun hadn't risen yet, even though it was nearly 7 in the morning. Time had slowed. Or I had. Something was broken. Something inside the gears of my perception was grinding and spitting sparks into my brain, and for a moment, a cruel moment, I actually thought I saw something move inside the light bulb, just behind the glow, something squirming, watching me watch it, like it knew. And that's when I understood, the thing from behind my eyes, it wasn't just in me. It was becoming me. Every time I closed my eyes, even for a blink, it crept forward, not with footsteps but with thoughts, crawling into the folds of my mind like a parasite with fingers. The kind of thing that didn't possess you, it replaced you. One breath at a time. I began setting alarms for every 30 minutes, not to wake up from sleep, but to stop myself from falling into it, because it was no longer rest waiting behind my eyelids. It was him, or it, or me, I still don't know which is worse, but every time I slipped just an inch too far into unconsciousness, I could feel it rising through me like heat from a basement furnace, something thick and unbreathable pressing against the inside of my skull until my thoughts tasted metallic and my limbs twitched like they were being puppeted by invisible strings. I thought maybe if I kept myself awake long enough, I'd learn to starve it out, deny it the space it needed to grow, but I should have known better, because whatever this thing is, it doesn't feed like a body, it thrives on the cracks I keep trying to plaster over, it breeds in the silences, in the heavy moments between a heartbeat and a thought, and now those moments are stretching like taffy, getting longer and stranger until time itself feels like it's melting around me. 3 nights without sleep and my body started to betray me, hands shaking so badly I couldn't hold a spoon without clinking it against the bowl like a ticking clock, mouth moving without permission, whispering little things like, "It's not watching you, it's waiting." And, "Close your eyes, just for a second, see what you really look like." I don't remember saying them. But the voice was mine. Not like a stranger imitating me, no. It was my exact cadence, my sarcasm laced with dread, my breath hitching in the same places it always did when I was about to admit something I didn't want to. It started getting bold after the 4th night. The static. That's what I call it now, the static behind my eyelids, because it's not like hearing a voice or seeing a hallucination, not at first. It's a texture, a kind of sensory grit that rolls across the back of my eyes every time I blink too slow or let my thoughts wander too far into memory. It started small, like the flickering of a dying TV in another room, but it's louder now, sharper, and sometimes it fills my head with a sound that isn't sound, a feeling of something crawling inside the roots of my mind. The static hums names. Names I don't recognize. Names I should recognize. On the 5th night I finally broke and tried to sleep, not because I wanted to, but because my body collapsed, full stop, knees buckling in the hallway, cheek pressed to the dusty wood floor, and I let go, just for a moment, just to let the weight off my bones. And that's when I saw it again. Not across from me this time, not standing in the void. It was over me, bent at an impossible angle, like its spine had been snapped backward and stitched together wrong, its face hovering just inches from mine, so close I could see the outline of something squirming beneath its skin, something that wasn't satisfied with wearing my features. It was practicing them, mimicking me like a child watching itself in a mirror, learning how to smile, how to cry, how to scream. But its mouth didn't move. It just looked at me the way a surgeon looks at an open chest, curious, precise, hungry. When I jolted awake, gasping, face soaked in cold sweat and piss-warm dread, I realized my bedroom door had opened by itself, even though I always keep it locked. The key was still in the knob. Turned. Not by me. And on the floor just beyond it, half smudged and still wet, were footprints. Bare. Identical to mine. Except they were facing the wrong way. It's watching me now. Not from the mirror, not anymore, no, that part was just the beginning, the rehearsal, the way it learned how I move, how I hesitate, how I rub my eyes when I'm lying and swallow hard when I think I'm alone, but now, it doesn't need the mirror. It has stepped out of that threshold like a hand from water, and it moves in the places I can't see, the blind angles behind swinging doors and crooked closet cracks and the too silent pauses in radio static. It moves like me when I'm not moving. It's not trying to scare me, not in the way you'd expect. This thing doesn't slam doors or whisper my name in the dark, what it does is subtle, surgical. It rearranges. It adjusts. I came home yesterday after pacing the city for 7 hours, miles and miles of concrete just to avoid the 4 walls I used to call shelter, and something was off. The dishes in the sink weren't mine. I never leave dishes. The fork was on the left side of the plate. I always put it on the right. The toothpaste was rolled from the middle. The coffee was in the wrong cabinet. The clothes on my bed weren't what I wore yesterday, but they smelled like me. I checked every window. Locked. Checked the door. Locked. No forced entry, nothing missing. No signs of life. But everything screamed of presence. Like someone had come here not to take or break, but to be me. I slept again. I didn't mean to. I passed out in the bathtub with the curtain drawn and the door locked and a knife gripped in my trembling fingers. That's when I had the dream, the only one I remember with such perfect clarity that I almost trust it more than waking life. In the dream, I was standing in my apartment, but it wasn't night. It wasn't any time at all, it was like someone had poured bleach over the idea of daylight, and everything was this dry, cracked white, like old paper or bones left too long in the sun. There were no shadows. No sound. And then I saw me. He was sitting on the couch, reading a book I don't own, wearing my face the way a thief wears a mask, too tight, with the expression just slightly wrong. His smile pulled at the edges like something stitched together badly, like there wasn't quite enough skin to contain all the teeth. I watched him raise his hand slowly, my hand, and wave at me with fingers that bent just a bit too far, each joint creaking like it had been made from hollow wood. Then he spoke, and it wasn't with a voice. It was with the silence. His mouth didn't open, but I heard it anyway, deep in the bone behind my ear. Go ahead. Close your eyes again. I'm better at being you now. When I woke up, there was a note beside the tub. Just a torn piece of newspaper with 5 words scrawled in sharp, deliberate handwriting. You blinked longer this time. I didn't write it. But it was in my handwriting. And underneath it, smeared faintly in oil or blood or both, was a thumbprint. My thumbprint. But on the wrong thumb. I started unplugging things. Every outlet. Every bulb. Every fuse pulled from the box like a tooth yanked from bone. I thought maybe if I could kill the hum, the pulse of the place, I could starve it, this presence, this shadow that isn't a shadow, into stillness. But no matter how many wires I stripped or how deeply I wrapped myself in silence, I could still hear it breathing in the walls. Not loud. Not even rhythmic. It was the kind of breathing you feel more than hear, like the subtle push of air against your bare skin in a sealed room, like the sound the earth makes right before it opens. I haven't left the apartment in 2 days. Every time I reach for the doorknob, I catch something. A glimpse, a flutter in my periphery, a brief reflected shape in the polished metal of the lock, and I freeze, because there's this split-second moment where I'm not sure if the thing I see is behind me or ahead of me, and it keeps getting harder to tell which direction I'm facing. The mirrors are gone. I broke them all: bathroom, hallway, the back of my phone, and still, I keep catching myself where I shouldn't be. In windows, in water. In the eyes of other people. Yesterday, I saw a man on the street, a stranger. I swear I didn't know him, and he winked at me, this slow, knowing blink like we shared a secret. And when he passed me, he whispered, "Don't worry, I'm still only wearing your Sunday version." I turned, but he was gone. Or worse, he hadn't moved, but the street behind me had changed. Like I'd turned a page in a book written by someone else. I haven't slept in 4 days, not truly. I catnap in corners with one eye half open, one hand around the hammer I keep under my pillow, but the dreams still find me. Not dreams, really. Rooms. That's the only way I can describe them. Every time I doze off, I wake up in another room, identical to mine, but just a little wrong. The couch is too far from the wall. The wallpaper peels in a pattern like teeth. The light comes from the floor instead of the ceiling. And in each of these rooms, there's always a door, and behind that door is him. Or me. Or something learning to become me. Last time, it knocked. A gentle knock, 3 times. And I didn't answer, but the door opened anyway. And that's when I saw what it's becoming. Not a copy. Not a twin. A refinement. Something cleaner, sharper. Like it had studied every piece of me that flinched, every flaw I tried to hide, every lie I told to survive, and scraped those parts away. It was smiling, not because it was happy, but because it didn't have to pretend anymore. Because it had found comfort in my skin. Because it finally fit. When I woke up, I found a pair of muddy shoes by the door. Not mine. Not anyone's I've ever seen. But the soles had the same pattern as mine. And the insoles were still warm. And there was water on the floor leading from the bathroom. The sink was dry. The shower hadn't been used. But the mirror, the one I shattered 2 nights ago, was whole again. And my reflection wasn't waiting. It had already left. I tried to follow the footprints. They weren't really footprints in the traditional sense, not smears of mud or blood or water, not physical evidence that I could measure or photograph or trace with tape and gloves. But impressions, memories of steps that pressed too deep into the floorboards, little warps in the grain like something heavy had walked barefoot across the apartment, inside out, leaving echoes instead of prints, soundless bruises in the architecture of the space I used to call mine. The tracks led in loops. Across the hall. Through the kitchen. Into the closet. Out again. Twice around the couch. A pause by the bedroom door. Then gone. Gone like it never needed to walk in the first place. It's not pretending anymore. I hear it now, no longer from the walls or the ceiling or the vents, but in everything. When I stir sugar into coffee, it stirs with me. When I blink, it blinks first. When I breathe, I'm following its rhythm, not the other way around. I don't think I'm leading my body anymore. I think I'm trailing behind it. It's growing bolder. Smarter. It started answering calls I didn't make. I found my phone face down on the kitchen counter. Something I never do. I hate smudges on the screen, and when I picked it up, there were 5 outgoing calls. All to the same number. A number I didn't recognize. I called it back. And I answered. Not my voice. My words. My patterns. My inflection. Even the nervous laugh I give when I'm trying to sound normal on the phone. It spoke to me like I was interrupting. You already said that, it whispered, annoyed, bored, just like I get when people repeat themselves. You really should write this down. I'm not going to say it again. Then a click. No dial tone. No disconnect chime. Just the sound of my own recorded voice, breathing softly on loop, until I threw the phone across the room and shattered it against the heater. I turned off all the lights, closed the blinds, boarded up the windows, sat in the dark for hours, silent, motionless, waiting for it to leave. But it didn't. Of course it didn't. Why would it leave? It was home. At one point I got up to piss. That's all. Just a basic need. A mechanical act. I opened the bathroom door, stepped inside, and there I was. Standing at the sink. Facing the mirror. But this wasn't a reflection. This was me, full-bodied and wrong, back to me, hands trembling on the porcelain, like it was practicing my posture. It didn't turn when I came in. It didn't flinch or attack or vanish. It just tilted its head, slowly, until I saw its eyes in the mirror. And they were mine. Only older. Tired. Faded. Like I'd been inside too long. It raised one hand, fingers twitching, and drew a shape in the fogged glass. A house. With no doors. No windows. Just a roof, and 4 sealed walls. Then it smiled at me, no malice, no glee, just acceptance, and said something I didn't understand at first, something so low and deep I thought it was the hum of the pipes. Every time you sleep, you stay longer. One day, you won't come back. Then it stepped into the wall like it belonged there. And I was left staring at the shape it drew, which wasn't a house anymore. Not really. It had changed. Now it looked exactly like this apartment. Exactly like mine. And I think, no, I know, that thing is going to stay in my body the next time I sleep. And I'll wake up in the wrong room, behind the wrong mirror. And this time, it won't let me back. I haven't spoken aloud in 3 days. At first, it was a fear thing, paranoia, superstition, the desperate logic of someone who believes that sound is invitation, but now it's something else, something worse, something buried deeper than fear. It's restraint. It's dread turned inward. It's the crawling certainty that if I do speak, if I break the silence, it won't be my voice I hear answering back, but mine, older, smoother, more practiced, like someone's been rehearsing me behind glass. I've started writing everything down in a notebook. At first, it was to track the events, catalog the details, try and piece together some rational pattern, paranoia disguised as control, but now it's more like insurance. In case I forget. In case it erases me and I don't know I'm gone. In case I wake up one day and the writing is neat and straight and flawless and I don't remember holding the pen. The notebook is the only thing that still feels human. Mine. Messy. Cramped. Chaotic. Terrified. Alive. I flipped back to page 1 yesterday. Page 1 is blank. Not just erased, clean. Virgin paper. No indentations, no ink ghosts, no pressure lines. Like I never wrote a word. Like I never existed. But I remember the words. I remember exactly what I wrote. Something's in here with me. And now I'm not sure if I meant the apartment. Or my body. Or something worse. Because I've started losing time. Not chunks. Not hours. Minutes. A drip of confusion, not a flood. I'll be in the kitchen, hand mid-stir in a lukewarm mug of tea, and I'll blink, and the tea will be cold, the mug empty, the spoon washed and drying on the rack. And my other hand, the one I wasn't using, will be holding a second cup of something else. Something thicker. Dark. Metallic. Not tea. I checked the drain. There's something caught in it. Not food. Not hair. Teeth. 3. Human molars. One still had a silver filling. I haven't been to a dentist in years. Last night, I tried to trap it. Whatever it is, wherever it goes, I try to catch it in the act. I set up my old DSLR camera in the corner of the living room, pointed at the couch, rolling all night on a full battery and a fresh card. I slept in the bedroom with the door locked and a knife in my hand. This morning, I checked the footage. At 2:14 a.m., the screen went black. Not glitched. Not corrupted. Black. But the timer kept running. Audio kept recording. And in the darkness, you can hear my door open. Slow. Click. Creak. A shuffle of feet. Breath. More than one. Then my voice, clear, casual, cheerful, saying, "Let me help you forget." And then, something else, like the sound of me leaving my own mouth. I've sealed the bedroom now. I painted over the door, screwed it shut, pushed the dresser against it. I sleep in the hallway now, hunched against the wall, one eye open, the knife clenched so hard my knuckles go raw. But the dreams follow me. And in those dreams, the walls breathe. The floor pulses. The ceiling bulges. And inside those moving shapes, behind those fleshy shifts in architecture, I see my own shape pressing forward, skin tight and expressionless, reaching for me with arms I recognize, arms that itch with the same scar I got in 5th grade when I fell off my bike and cried until my mother told me to shut up. That scar is on both of us now. In the dream, I run. Always. And always, it catches me. And when it speaks, it says one thing, again and again, every night, every whisper, "You're the reflection now." And I wake up, not in the hallway, but back in the bedroom. The door open. The dresser pushed aside. The knife gone. And the notebook on the floor beside me. Open to a page I didn't write. In handwriting just like mine. Almost done. One more night. I haven't slept in 2 nights. Not because I'm trying to stay awake. But because I don't know who'll wake up if I do. The apartment is no longer pretending to be a place. It's not a space I live in. It's not even a structure anymore. It's a process. A long, slow method of replacement. It began with little things, mismatched memories, misplaced items, the echo of my voice in rooms I hadn't entered. But now I can feel it taking shape behind my face, a pressure in my skull like a growing mold, something that thinks with me, not against me, like rot sharing the root system of a tree before blooming through the bark. I've started referring to myself in the third person, even when I think. I don't know if I'm doing it consciously. Maybe it's not me anymore. Maybe it's him. Or it. Or what I was always going to become once the apartment got hungry enough. The mirrors have gone black. Every last one. Not just fogged or cracked or covered in grime, black, like the glass has swallowed its own reflection. If I lean too close, I don't see myself anymore. I see a room with no floor, no ceiling, no walls, just an endless stretch of gray, like concrete drowned in fog. And in that fog, something moves. It looks like me. But taller. Bonier. Bent. Like it's still learning how to fit into the body it stole. Last night, I heard it crawling through the vents. Slow. Deliberate. Metal groaning like lungs too full of phlegm. And then, from inside the bathroom, the sound of my toothbrush being used. When I opened the door, the lights flickered, once, twice, and there it was, not in the mirror, not in the vent, but on the ceiling. Pressed flat against it like a spider. Arms bent the wrong way. Face upside down, smiling wide enough to split the jaw. And it whispered, "You've been home all along." Then it dropped. But I didn't run. I didn't scream. I didn't move. Because I couldn't. Because I wasn't in charge anymore. Something in my spine gave way. Something in my mouth opened without my permission. And it crawled into me, inch by inch, bone by bone, smile first. Now I sit in the same spot, hour after hour. I don't eat. I don't drink. I don't blink unless it wants me to. Sometimes I let it take over. Sometimes it lets me pretend. It's a partnership now. A shared lease. And the rent is my face. But if you're reading this, if this notebook is still in the world, if you're standing outside my door, curious about the strange smell, or the fact that the lights have been on for weeks, or because you haven't seen me leave in days, don't knock. Don't try the knob. Don't press your ear to the wood. Don't think about helping. Because it already knows your name. Because it already wants your shape. Because you're next. Warning: this apartment doesn't stay empty for long. The last tenant left the door open. You've already taken the first step inside. Skull and Crossbones.